Welcome back, dear viewers. You're still watching Nile Cruise on Nile TV from a wonderful place on the Nile banks here in Cairo, and a very special place, of course. Dear viewers, environmental engineering offers smart solutions to climate changes. The word is out, ocean levels are rising. Global warming is giving us more hurricanes, heavy rainfall, and four times more flooding than we did in 1980. The 26th UN Climate Change Conference concluded on November the 12th after 2 weeks of deliberations between political and corporate levels, leaders actually from around the globe on how the best combat climate change. Environmental engineering offers smart solutions to adapt with climate changes, and we are honored in this context, dear viewers, to know more about what I've been discussing, which is really complicated from my own point of view, to host Dr. Ayman Mosallam, professor of civil and environmental engineering and the founder of Egypt's Green Building Council, to shed more light on, of course, everything I previously introduced, sir. A very good day, and it's a pleasure to have you with us, of course, in today's episode of Nile Cruise, and to know more about everything that's going on, of course, the climate change, the global warming, everything, every change that's happening and taking over. We need to know more about, sir.
Sure.
Thank you, Dr. Musallam, for joining us. And I guess to make things easier, Rana, can you first please introduce us to environmental engineering? Because I'm not sure that everyone knows what is environmental engineering all about.
Okay. First, thank you very much for
Thank you.
inviting me to give you some info about environmental engineering and climate change and all these issues that are very critical at this time. Environmental engineering, from the title of it does concern with the the effect of environment in two ways. One way is our uh, environment and its effect on us, and us affecting the environment around us. And those are very critical issues, the relationship, the interrelationship between both of them. So the environment for us is how you protect, or the environmental engineering focuses on how you protect a human and society from that two-way street. So you will see that the environment includes water, ocean, air pollution, soil pollution, all these issues that you can surrounding the environment. In the construction and building, we have another terminology we call the built environment. Anything to do with the building, inside and out. So you're going to find the environmental engineer has a lot of branches. And sometimes you're going to see one environmental engineer may know something, branch of these sciences, but not the other. So some people are totally in air pollution, so everything to do with the space and air and ventilation and so forth. The others will be focusing more on water, wastewater, flood protection, and others. So and many other things. The interrelationship between the different elements of the ecosystem has to be addressed by the environmental engineer. As I said, most of the time people sometimes they ignore that the soil where we grow our food, the vegetation and others are very important. So treating the soil, treating the water has a direct relationship with also the soil. So if I don't treat the water in a proper manner, and then it will seep into the groundwater, and the soil itself will, all the ingredients in the soil will be washed out. So that will affect the crops and the vegetation and the whole cycle, insects inside the microbiological cycle also in the soil. So it is a very complicated and yet very important to have specialized fields, specialized engineers that they look at every aspect, and looking at one aspect and separate it from the other is not the way. You have to have interdisciplinary team with different expertise in environmental engineering in order to come up with a totality or holistic approach to solve issues that will affect eventually also other things like climate change. So everything is within that cycle. It's very important to look, closely and how each one will affect the others.
Okay, sir, would you illustrate the effect of climate change in Egypt, please?
Okay, climate change is a fancy word, and I'm sure the public want to know exactly what do you mean by climate change. The easiest way, usually, we simulate that terminology to make it easy for public to understand. Um, we refer to what we call the GHG, or greenhouse gas. In Arabic, you call it the SOBA. So in this case, when we wanted to grow vegetation or fruits or something in a different season, then we protect that environment or make a special environment for that vegetation, not in the same season was supposed to grow and will grow. And at that point, um, the sun rays will come, hits that sova, and goes all the way to the soil, and naturally it's supposed to return part of it back. When you have that glass or plastic shield on top of it, it won't go. And that's why you have that warming effect inside that glass. Let's just make now this analogy to our globe, our Earth. Same thing. We have an Earth. God created it in a perfect manner, and then we have to be warmed also, and not to be freezing as certain ages. So the rays will come, go to the soil, warm part that we need, and in precise amount, so the vegetation and the seasoning works very well, and the rest of it has to go back to the atmosphere. Now that looks very good, very simple, like the GHG. However, in this case, when we have the smog, like in the cars and factories smog and many other things that we use in a daily life and we think it's nothing, you spray something, it's nothing. Yeah, but nothing with 7 billion people, say even 10% using that, we got tons of that all over the world. And that also from the carbon dioxide, where you have all the smokes coming from different things, from the animals, the stocks, when you have the methane gas comes huge amount. Actually, the, the livestock, which is the cows and things like that, their residuals actually is a big source of methane gases, and they are heavy gases. It goes to the atmosphere. You can't see it, but actually you can actually, this time when I come to Egypt or I go to China, I feel a little bit sad when I see a layer, thick layer, and I have some photos of that from the airplane. You can see actually a shield, dark one, even in Los Angeles. And then when you go down, this part that you don't see it when you're sitting now, that create that plastic shield in the soba. The same thing now. It's very simple. So now the rays will go no problem, goes to the soil, heats the things by the God creation in the precise manner. But now the second cycle is part of it has to go back. But that shield is very thick. That cannot go back. So it reflects back to the earth and goes back and forth. That changes everything in our life. Now, one would say it's going to be warming only. No, it's going to be also cold. It's going to be floods. It's going to be rain because, as I mentioned before, when you look at the environment, you cannot look at one piece. You have to look at the whole cycle as a holistic vision, and you're going to see that going to affect many other issues in our life that we see today.
So, Dr. Mosallam, what solutions could your branch of engineering, environmental engineering, give us examples, please, of solutions that you can offer for climate change problems or global warming problems in Egypt specifically?
Sure. I mean, one of the things that always has been in the media about losing our, northern cities where you have the Mediterranean Sea and so on. That's true. If you go to Alexandria, and I've been although I've been 40 some years in U.S., but I never been away from Egypt ever, and I will never. And actually, my will is to be buried in Egypt. So every time I come, I see changes. I mean, for me, summer was Alexandria, not maybe the northern shores now. Until now, actually, I go only to Alexandria. And then when you go to Alexandria, in the entrance, you're going to see actually in some areas close to Burj Al Arab, you're going to find water actually coming in, and you're going to see people. Maybe you don't see it that much because it's not in the major highway, but then you can see actually villages are going backward. So there is an issue because you have now changes in the sea level happening. It's not as exaggerated by the media. We are not in a big danger. I'm not trying to make people to be, relaxed, but in the same time, we have to do something. So that's one issue. The problem was that it's not only losing these lands that we're trying to increase our land, any country would like to, but also this salt water going to go down to the groundwater. This is our lives, and contaminate that and became more, salt content that will affect the whole cycle. As I mentioned, everything going to be affected, and it's happening. So the environmental engineers have a huge responsibility. And I'd just like to mention one thing. Environmental engineering is not a new discipline. In fact, when I was in Cairo University, I graduated from Cairo University, I'm very proud of that. And during those days, it was not the name environmental. It was called sanitary engineering. Sanitary engineering.
صحية.
And nobody want to be there.
The Arabic word الصحية, right?
صحية,
And
هندسة
هندسة
صحية.
And comes from sanitizing.
Right. But the focus was that time, at least in my era, it was on water and wastewater. And if you are choosing to be in that discipline, people didn't want to talk to you. Even I remember my dear mom, when I had to do some project and had something to do with sanitary, I said, please don't do that. That's not nice. And so that was the perception at this time.
What was your point of view, sir?
Because of the issue about Magari, about wastewater, so it's like a smelling
Sewage.
issue. So, but I actually, the first job I have done in my life when I was young, a few months after graduation, I worked with a company, American company called Medikoff and Eddy, specialized in wastewater treatments. And I was in love with that, although I shifted then to structural and earthquake engineering and others, and back now to the same point, because as I said, when I show my title is like professor of civil and environmental engineering, and they are all under one wing. But nowadays everybody used to be civil engineering only, but after the awareness about the environment and stuff, always now all the university will attach the word environmental engineering, although it is within the civil engineering domain, but just show that you are aware of the environment.
Right. And
Sir, we use water as a resource, not as a threat. I would like to hear your thoughts on this, sir.
Again, as I said, in the very, very beginning, Egypt always has been the leading. And that's why, as I mentioned to you, we call it sanitary engineering and focusing only on water. But if you look at the water resources in Egypt, we are blessed with the Nile forever. And that's our life, within that Nile River. We know, we understand, realize that there's issues, concerns about our resources and our share, natural share, and the legal share of the Nile, which we depend a lot on it. However, even when we have the Nile, we still have to conserve the water resources that God, given to Egypt. I want to quote a good friend of mine who is a giant in environmental engineering that actually came here to visit Egypt a few years back. And he built a lot of recycling plants in California. And every plant he would do, he has a piece of stone and he writes that word and he say, we only borrowing water and we have to return the loan. It means that the water should not be taken for granted. It's just you take some, like you get a book from the library, you
And
have to
then
bring
you
it back
reuse
as
it.
is.
Yeah.
And that's, and then he signs his name and everywhere. So I believe this is true. It is not endless resources. You are just borrowing that for a use. Bring it back. To be honest, this is what you have to do. And this is actually the definition of sustainability. Always you hear that sustainability is tidama. Everybody is using it because this is the way to do things now. But nobody have looked at what is sustainability, because it touches everything we are discussing today. Sustainability, in my view, is not to be selfish in every usage of any resources. So if you're using the water today, you know that your family will be happy with that and so forth. Did you think about your great great grandchild? No, we don't. I'm gonna finish it now. I still have this bottle, is enough. So you're gonna see in some areas, even in US, you look at 100, 200, 300. When the oil went down, they were actually getting oil, and we have reserve now for at least 100 years. When during the crisis of the pandemic of so why they are doing this? Again, maybe selfishness, maybe they are abusing the power, but still the sustainability in their mind is not for me today, is afterward. So if you look at this with the water issue, then if you have that awareness from your heart, not just the word, you will understand. And that reflects actually now the political leadership here. Maybe they have some issues, but in my opinion, they know exactly what's sustainability. Either they did it by heart, that God gave them that blessing. Now, when you look at the bridges, the transport system now became so, and everybody's saying, why are you doing all of this? In my opinion, my translation to that, it is sustainability. You're not going to feel it today, but you are very angry. You did not do what I want now because you don't have that sustainability issue in your mind. But somehow, somewhere, somebody is looking at sustainability. You're not going to, when you have the cell phone with you, mobile phone, and you look at it, can you imagine that when you were young, or my cell phone is young?
No.
But today was for your child, he's playing with it. Same thing when you see monorail, after 20, 30 years, your grandson gonna come, and if it's not working, it became part of the life. So what is happening now, you're not gonna feel it, but your great grandson will feel it. You will feel proud. You will feel part of the life. And that's sustainability. That touches everything, including water.
Dr. Mosallam, you are the founder of Egypt Green Building. Can you tell us more about it?
Was dream of me for a long, long period of time. And I started to think about it when I looked at the green building, and I didn't really realize also what is the source of that importance of the green building. So I was like any other person. This is a terminology, so it was not something taught in the school. And then I looked at it, who is concerned with that? And I found many, many countries. And I know Egypt is the leader in everything from centuries to go, especially in building. So why you are not in that in that issue? After I understood the impact of our generation to come, I came here back in 2002, 2003 to Egypt, and I had the privilege that I know most of the cabinet ministers and even the prime ministers, and I tried to convince them that we should, at least politically, for our position in the region, in Africa and Middle East, to start a council. All the other European started, the Far East have started. We are the leader, we should start it. At that point, people were concerned more, as I said, not the sustainability, but today's, how to feed people, how to maintain other things in the business of life. And until in 2009, and with the help of others, of course, it's not only me, I was coming here almost every 3 times for that mission. And I wanted to do an NGO, or non-governmental, but for political reasons they said no, try to avoid that, it has to be under the government. And at that time it was a lot of struggles until we get the permission to establish the Egypt Green Building Council. was because I am more into housings and buildings and so forth. So it could be in any ministry, but that time the Minister of Housing has a good understanding of what I wanted, and so it was established under the Ministry of Housing
Utilities?
yes, and utilities at that time, and the technical wing of that council um, uh, still at the Housing and Building National Research Center here in Giza. We established actually with some money that I have solicited from U.S. to establish a headquarter at that location.
Perfect, sir.
We were actually the first uh, council in the Middle East and Africa. No, not in Africa. South Africa started before. However, we proved to the world that we are aware of it. Since then, it is working. Then there is something called the Green Building Rating System. And the Rating Building System is a system that I can say if this building or this facility, is it really green or not? Before I just continue to the word green, people still have that illusion about what is green. Is that a
That's
painting
correct.
painted green, right? That's what would be in your mind. Or shall I put just trees everywhere? I mean, that's the green means. The green is analogy, especially plants. If you look at the plants, you can have it in a garden, in a plaza. You can do it in a farm. You can do it even in excluded area. And the flower will come everywhere. Why? Because the plant itself adjusted itself for whatever you have surrounding, and within that framework, still the flower is coming. So the green in this point, as I said, has to be sustainable. And the green building, in my opinion again, say you have a green building or house or home, in my opinion, the definition is that house that you get in, you're happy once you get home. When you sit, you're comfortable. When you leave, you regret that you're leaving. This is what it is. So if I am in a green building, I have to satisfy the human need, and also I have to be productive. I don't have to be in a dark place, no ventilation. You can't produce nothing, because when you sit, imagine yourself in your office and it's dark, no ventilation, light is not the proper one. How can you produce? How you invent? In few hours, you want to go home, you want to get out. If you're staying in a place where all these elements, and it doesn't have to be expensive, are maintained, you're not going to feel the time. You're happy. You're going to produce more, and you have relaxation in your heart that you're going to benefit that, reflected to your society, your family, and everything will be green. So that's the green mentality.
Sir, Egypt has been chosen as a representative of Africa to host the 27th session of the Conference of the Parties to the Convention of the COP27, of course, which is expected to be held in November of the year 2022 in Sharm el-Sheikh, of course. Your intake, sir, and the definition for our viewers of the convention COP27.
Okay, so this is called the conference of community that has been established for a long period of time.
COP27 is a
Conference of the
of,
parties.
of the parties.
Parties.
Which parties?
Parties that these are the people who are focusing on environment and global change, the climate change and so forth.
And
Uh,
huh?
so go ahead. I'm sorry.
What about 27?
27 is this is the next cycle. No, 27. This is in the number. I
2027?
mean, the first one. Yeah, I'm sorry.
It's the
Was
number
in
27 in the
sessions.
conferences,
They are
the
sessions. So session 1, 2, 3. The first one
So,
was in Tokyo in
and
Japan.
COP is? What does COP
CUP is Conference of Parties.
Conference
C
of
for
Parties.
Conference, O and Parties. But that's important for people to
This
know.
is with regards to climate change and the usage of water and the
Exactly.
and the global warming. So
Yes, for all the sessions, the most known one in Tokyo, Kyoto, in Tokyo. That's where they have this carbon dioxide stock market where people actually made money out of it. And then U.S. were not so much into did not sign for a reason. They said, oh, how about other countries like China and so political issues. This thing died a little bit, and then
Yeah, I
now it's
remember we
coming back.
used to hear about the Kyoto Protocol for years. I mean, the
That's
Kyoto
because money,
Protocol. Yeah,
money. I mean, I'll tell you something. United Arab Emirates, with all due respect, they are our friends, our family.
of course.
But I'm just saying they make huge amount of money in Masdar and stuff because the amount, the whole idea is they are telling the called industrial cities or industrial countries, if you reduce your carbon dioxide, and that's measured by tons, so every ton you get that amount of money. So how do you do that? How do you measure that? I'll come back and I tell you, and there is a committee to go to inspect and say, you know what, we have like in Ashur Ramadan, we have like say 100 factories. We have changed all the filters. And instead of 2 stages, we have 20 stages for the smog. You prove it, inspect it, and then you calculate it. That will translate into say 1,000,000 tons of carbon dioxide. We see how much that stock market multiply millions of dollars, and then you get a check. Who is paying? Japan. Japan said no, enough, because nobody's signing. But it's all political stuff. The very thing, and I'm not talking about anything other than science and what I feel. It's my personal opinion. I was surprised, and I said that all the time, when the president came, President Sisi came in the first inaugurative um, speech in the United Nations. No, really true, because my heart was the green building and sustainability. And then he started talking about sustainability. I tried in 2001, nobody want to listen to me. In fact, word by word, they say, Ayman, we want to feed people. We don't care about green building. And today, somebody coming to the United Nations, and this is the first ever to talk to the world.
With a vision.
And he talks only about sustainability.
Sir,
The vision.
the UN expert said that nominating Egypt to host the COP27 comes as an appreciation to its environmental efforts. Would you shed light on this, please, sir, and the importance, of course, of Egypt hosting such a very important convention, which will take place in Sharm el-Sheikh in Egypt, which is, of course, a source of pride to all Egyptians?
Sure. I will tell you something. I mean, usually if I am a candidate for a job, he will ask me for my CV, and you have to look at what I do. If you find that I'm not really qualified, you're not going to hire me, except if I have a friendship with the boss. That's not the case. But anyway,
And it's
most
always
of the
case.
cases,
It's
yeah,
always the
it's qualification. Egypt is no less than that in that global manner. So Egypt has built a CV in 5 years more than ever. Nobody can actually do that. If you look at what we have done over that, first of all, the Green Building Council, because I'm very proud of the Green Building Council, that's something to show.
The Green Building
Council of
Council?
Egypt, yes. We have already the Green Building Council of Egypt.
Yeah.
Has a rating system. We have already project that has been certified by Green Building Council.
What's
and
our
we are
rating system, sir?
The rating system, actually, I had in mind to have a logo, and I have something to be indicative of our history, a confirmation. So I did actually almost half a year of my life dedicated to the pyramids, to try to see the different rating system. In US, we have something called LEED, L-E-E-D. It's a rating system. It's abbreviation of a long acronym. And then we have the BREEAM in England. We have CASPI in Japan. And I said I'm not going to copy none of them because each one has a value for the environment different than the other. For example, in England, you don't worry that much about heat because you don't have heat. So air conditioning for me is more important. Water for them is not big deal. They have ice, they have snow, they have water you can't even imagine. Here I have water. So when I rate that building of consumption of water, I'll give you a lot of credit if you are saving water. Maybe in England, no, they have less credit. If air conditioning and heat, then
Understood.
So we wanted to customize our rating system to be independent. And that's why I studied the pyramids from all the aspects, in the design, in the construction, in the ventilation. And I found through the study, and I presented that in the Commonwealth Institute of England, and I showed that by their BREEAM system, we are platinum rated. And everybody agreed. This
Wow.
is scientific.
Of course, Dr.
Wow. That's
Ayman
great.
Mosallam, Professor of Civil and Environmental Engineering, the founder of Egypt Green Building Council. Of
We
course,
wish we had more time,
yeah, I
but
wish we
yeah.
had
Sure.
more time to spend, and
It's a pleasure.
please, we would take from this, we would take from your time again to be with us on Nile Cruise again.
It will be
Tell us
all-
more about your, of course, every single thing that's going on, because this is one of the most important issues that we are tackling now under the auspices of President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi. Actually, Abdel Fattah el-Sisi, our president, is making efforts in every different director. International affairs he's working on. In Egypt, he's working on every single thing that he has to work on. Climate change, we are the winners, and we're going to be hosting the next session, the COP27,
True.
hopefully, and we're looking forward to make all success during this very important session that will take place. We thank you so much for joining us, sir. And as I mentioned, Mohammed mentioned,
We
if
hope to
take-
see you again.
We hope to take you
It's
anywhere.
pleasure
We'll take you-
always.
We'll take chapters
Pleasure
and chapters
always.
Thank you.
to talk with you about this very important issue.
Just
which
one
is
last thing I want
the
to
most
say.
important
Yes,
issue.
please.
without interruptions.
Please.
I'm very proud of Egypt in that category. Maybe a lot of people do not understand it, but your great grandson and daughter will understand.
It's great to hear.
Thank you,
It's great
sir.
to hear.
Dear
Thank you, sir.
viewers, you're still watching Nile Cruise on RTV International. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. Me and Mohammed Abdel